Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zoom into Wine. It's time for the show and your host, Ian Blackburn.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining me tonight. This is our second night for Stars of Rosé, and we were very overwhelmed with response. I know the markets are opening back up, but we are going to continue to do our Zooms and live events going into the future. But the great thing about our Zooms is we can pull people together from all over the place, and it's really fun to get to connect with the winemakers, connect with you, see your faces, taste the wine from the luxury of your home. And we're hoping that you find the value proposition very high. We've got a large calendar of upcoming events on our website. Zoom into Wine, also Learn About Wine is coming back to life. And we're of course working really hard on our partner store, the Merchant of Wine, and doing some really fun things there. So thanks for your support tonight. Let's get started. We've got 7 rosés and we're on a clock. I want to remind the winemakers you have about 7 to 8 minutes to present your case, your wine, your story. And we'd love to make a few minutes room for some questions. Any interaction, please hit that chat box down at the bottom of the screen and have fun. This is all for you, and we really love the participation and any questions you might have. The winemakers are here. Ask lots of questions and be involved and enjoy the whole night, everybody. Let me just start by giving you a little toast and saying cheers. Thanks for joining us for the Stars of Rosé. Boom. And let's get started with our first guest tonight, Jason Haas with Tapas Creek, wine number 1. Did everybody get your tasting materials? Did everybody see the email that had the brochure? My team worked really hard on that, and they do a really good job. I'll just make sure you saw it. If you didn't see it, look in your email for this baby right here. And on there, it's got the brochure with some tasting notes and information, and then the tasting mat. When you click it, it opens up. So please do that. And Jason, are you out there?
I don't think Jason was able to do it tonight. He had something come up. So
all right, buddy, you are the stand-in.
Yeah. Hey, and hello, everyone. Cheers. Happy Saturday. Happy Rosé Day. Happy reopening, happy Juneteenth, all of those things. Happy Father's Day. That's a lot happening this weekend and this week for everyone, I'm sure, but it's nice to see some faces. I think you can see faces in real life too if you go to some restaurants now. I'm noticing that this week. So first one we're starting off with, which I'm happy to be here and talk about Tapas Creek.
Yeah, this is my buddy Alan Gary. He represents Tablas and has for many years. And thank you for always being there for us, buddy. And this is going to be a really fun night tonight. We have 2 wines from your portfolio, so I'm hoping you'll help us out with both.
I'm here for both and for the rest of the evening. So if you need anything, let me know. So Tapas Creek from Paso Robles. Tapas Creek was started in 1989. It's basically 2 families, one of which, well, both I have pretty close ties to. The first is the Haas family. The Haas family started an import company called Vineyard Brands, which is the company that I work for. Jason Haas, who is Bob Haas's son, who Bob Haas is the founder. Jason now runs Tapas Creek. From everything that happens at Tapas Creek, he's heavily involved. We're in the Adelaida district, as you can see in Paso. I've been in the wine business for 15 plus years now, and it's really cool to see what's happening in Paso. There used to be one AVA, and now, as you can see, there's lots of different areas and pockets, lots of microclimates in Paso. And as you can see, Tapas Creek, we're far to the west, close to the ocean, but there's that big ridge of mountains and hills right there. So there's not a direct line to the ocean. With that being said, it does get very warm there, but it also gets very cool at night. One of the reasons that they started growing Rhône varieties is because, as I mentioned, the Haas family before, they're close with the Perrin family. They were importing the Perrin's wines, which includes Chateau De Castells, which you might have heard of. Their idea in 1989 was to find, someone asked what AVA, this is Adelaida Hills is the AVA. They found this unique property. Their idea was to take Rhône varieties that were growing in Châteauneuf-du-Pape from Beaucastel. Beaucastel has all 14 varieties of Rhône varietals that are allowed to go into Châteauneuf-du-Pape. And they bought the land in 1989 and started planting shortly after and importing the varieties from France. So that was quite a process, and not until 2020. So last year were they able to make wines from every single variety imported from Beaucastel, and to import them and have them growing and grow them enough to ripeness. So with the Patelin de Tapas de Rosé, they make lots of different varieties at Tapas Creek. As you can see, there's the Adelaide Hills. You can see a little bit of fog in the distance. That's pretty common. Even on the hotter days, as it cools off at night, you see a little bit of fog roll in, results in a really beautiful expression of terroir there in the Adelaide Hills district. Grenache kind of is the star, especially for this wine, but a big thing for Tapas Creek, which is also a big thing for Beaucastel, is Mourvèdre. So if you have heard of a GSM blend, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre, GSM very common. I'm sure we're going to taste a few. This is based on that, but instead of Syrah, we have Counois, which Counois is usually blended in. Tapas Creek does make a Counois 100% varietal that's just Counois, which is really interesting. So the Counois gives it a little bit of spice. Mourvèdre gives this wine a little bit of depth, a little bit of tannins, a little bit of dark fruit just right in the center, and then the 74% Grenache for this vintage. So as you can see, there's lots of animals at Tapas Creek. They employ a full-time shepherd. So if you're looking to change careers and become a shepherd, that is definitely an avenue you can pursue. The shepherd tends to not only the sheep, but also llamas, pigs, and I think in some other pictures, there's some vineyard dogs as well. What they do at Tapas Creek, we're certified by Demeter, who is a well-known organic certification for the whole world. They're certified biodynamic. So I won't spend too much time on biodynamic because that'll take up everyone's time. But it's basically organic on a different level. That's about as basic as I can get. There's a picture of Bob Haas, the founder of Vineyard Brands. Again, his son Jason is running everything at Vineyard Brands and has been now for the past years. Unfortunately, Bob passed away almost 5 years ago. But Bob left a legacy. One of many things that he left behind was Tapas Creek and his goal to make Rhône style varieties, make them well grown, and find a place and home in California to make things that are closest to Châteauneuf-du-Pape and to French Rhône blends, which is what we have here. So enjoy, cheers. One thing about Patelin, there's the vineyard dog that I was talking about, one of 4. If you ever get the chance, Tapas Creek just finished some renovations on the tasting room. They've been doing tastings outside, but now they renovated their tasting room. They learned a lot from the pandemic and from how they were doing tastings. If you ever want to go up there, we have a great team. On the left, you'll see Neil Collins in the middle with apron, handsome British fellow. He is the head winemaker, but he employs all of the other people there as their wine team to make the wines, because Tapas Creek does make so many different wines, has so many different varieties. As you can see behind them, those are the Foudre. So the Foudre are imported from France. They're neutral oak barrels that they use in a lot of the different blends. This rosé that we have is no oak on this, by the way. It's just a clean press of the Grenache. It spends about 8 to 10 hours on the skins, which gives it the color. And then they blend in a little bit of Counois Mourvèdre at the end. That's just a direct press. And then on the right, you see the vineyard team and some of the shepherd team as well. Tapas Creek's pretty special. Most of those guys in that picture to the right have been with Vineyard Brands for 30 plus years. So it's a great vineyard, a great company, great to work with. And as you can see, a beautiful place to go visit. So if you have the time, if you're traveling again, you feel comfortable to go up to Paso, we'd love to host you. Just go online to talboscreek.com, and then you can set up your own tasting. So
we've got friends from all over California tuning in tonight, and I just want to go through and say hi to Greg Gura. Greg is with the charity. He and I have worked together for a long time. We're trying to raise over $1 million for charity, and we're about 650,000 in. And Greg, how is the auction doing tonight? On that email that we sent you, there's also an auction link. if you want to check out the different things that we've got available for this event. We put a couple of boxes of rosé together. We've got, in fact, we've got a 3 liter of Mirabeau from you guys, Alan Gary, from years past. We thank you very much for all the continued donations that you give us. And the Mirabeau is up on the website right now. And I think, does it have a bid on it yet, Greg?
It doesn't. There's no bid on that one yet. You know, we also did, like you said, we did 2 assorted cases of rosé, and all those 3 items we started extremely low. We usually started off about 50% off retail. I think these we started at 80% off retail, so we get some active bidding. So thank you to Michelle, thank you to Lisa for the bid so far, but we definitely could use a lot more.
All right, let's encourage you guys to get in there. Those auction items will ship to you, and you got to buy some wine anyway, so might as well give the money to the charity. It's a great way to do it. And check out the trips. We've got a gentleman who works with us for years, and he helps us put together these trip packages. And it's a good idea to put some of these things together because there's some real value there for you.
Yeah, we've got a trip to Scottsdale. We've got a trip to Hawaii. We've got a trip to Tuscany. So check it all out.
Well, thank you, Greg. And we've got our second wine coming down real quick here. But first, let me just comb through the audience here. We've got over 40 folks on the Zoom tonight. We want to thank you for a near sellout of this particular event. It was really, really great. Wednesday was sold out. And I'm so glad to see some of you that weren't able to make it on Wednesday here tonight. Hi, Erica. How are you? Hey, Dana. How are you? Good to see you.
Sorry, I was on mute. Great to be here.
I'm glad you could. Is your dog going to make an appearance?
Sleeping.
Okay. All right. I'll keep for that. We'll keep that down. Well, bring your dogs out later. Maybe a wine 5 or 6. You'll feel like sharing your dog. So let's get into wine number 2. Alan, it just actually happens to be you. When we didn't put these wines in order until I tasted them, you know, all the wines in the same room. And so we go from Tapas Creek. We're going to go to Rioja, Spain, another Vineyard Brands import. And let's take a look. This is it, Marqués de Cáceres. And this is a property I've actually visited in Rioja. This wine is already off to a rockin' start on the website. And I think you're going to love the value proposition this wine represents. So we'll talk about prices a little bit later, but go for it, Alan.
Sure. So we're in Rioja. Rioja is typically known more for red wines. As you can see on the map right there, Rioja is in 3 different main regions. Marqués de Cáceres is in Rioja Alavesa. So right there, you'll see along the Ebro River. So this is, I talked about Grenache with Tapas Creek. That was a dominant rosé blend. This is dominant Tempranillo. So Tempranillo is also the grape that you find in Rioja and red Riojas. There is a little bit of Garnacha, which is Grenache, but in Spain they say Garnacha in this wine as well. As Ian's been there, Ian, did you meet Christina, the owner? Did you get a chance to talk to Christina Forner at all? Were you there?
It was 16 years ago, so
okay.
Don't recall.
Okay, gotcha. We'll have to send you back soon. So as you know, Rioja tends to make very age-worthy wines. Christina Forner is the owner of Marqués de Cáceres. She's an amazing person, and she's done a lot for the property and for Rioja in general. As you can see, very rocky area. It's pretty warm. It reminds me a little bit of Southern California, especially on a day like today where we're getting close to triple digits. But basically what she's done is her father, Enrique, started Marqués de Cáceres in 1970. Christina took over, I believe in 1998, operations and has employed a pretty amazing winemaking team. At first, they had Michel Rolland, who's a very famous winemaker. He was the first wine consultant to help them make the style of wines. One of the things that he brought to Cáceres and to Rioja was French oak. A lot of times when we're talking about Rioja, we're talking about American oak, but Marqués de Cáceres has moved into French oak. So if you ever have some Rioja from them, it's going to be a little bit different than your American oaked Riojas. They wanted to make a nice rosé. Typically, rosés from Rioja, because they're using Tempranillo, they're bigger wines, a little more tannic, a little darker fruit. They were noticing that it wasn't selling very well, especially in America. People tend to like a little bit lighter rosés, and even if the color is deep and dark and very dry and tannic, people tend to think that they're going to be sweet. That's definitely not the case. These are just a nice little video. You can see everybody picking, you can see the vineyards. Just beautiful, well-maintained, beautiful area. If you ever get the chance to go to Spain, definitely Rioja is worth a visit. But they decided to change the style of the rosé a few years back and make it a little more like the Provence style. So a little less time on the skins. Again, about 8 to 10 hours, just a light pressing with the Tempranillo, and then adding a little bit of Grenache to it to give it a little bit of brightness. I was blown away by this wine the past 2 vintages. I just think it's really delicious. And if you were to put it in a blind tasting, which we're not, but I think you'd be surprised, because typically Rioja Rosé is a much heavier, much darker grape, and this is a little bit lighter expression, which I think is very nice. And it shows kind of Christina's hand with the winery to try to make something that's it's a little bit more approachable, a little bit softer around the edges, and like I said, nice acidity with the Grenache. So I'm a big fan of this wine, and as Ian mentioned, the value on it is pretty insane for this quality of wine.
I think it got like a 90-point score in the major publications.
Yeah,
and we're looking at a wine that has a suggested MSRP around $12. And this week we've got all the rosés that are participating at really kind of bottom pricing below even the recommended levels. So take advantage of it until Sunday night. That's when the prices will go back to reality. But we want to sell a lot of rosé this week, and you still get the 10% off even on these low prices on any assorted 12 bottles. So on the tasting sheet, it talks about a price. That's the suggested price. The prices on the website are actually considerably lower, a lot lower for some. So jump on them if you like them. When they're gone, they're gone. But we really want to support the wineries that are supporting this event, and thank you guys for being involved. And Vineyard Brands always brings some really amazing wines. Whenever you turn the bottle around and you see on the back it says Vineyard Brands, it's probably something really, really special. This is a really top-notch company. I don't know how Alan kept his job there, but he's done a good job. 15 years, buddy. That's amazing.
In the wine business, not for Vineyard Brands, but just in the business in general. You know. Yeah, I've been there 4 years, so it's been great. But yeah, I agree. It has to do, again, I mentioned Bob Haas. He's a pioneer. If you don't know the name, he's a pretty amazing guy, and he's developed a lot of long-term relationships, Cáceres being one of them, that he's knew Enrique. He worked with Christina, and we've been importing their wines since they first started being imported into the United States. So
yeah, awesome. Well, thank you very much. And let's see, I think we got just maybe a couple more slides.
Yeah, I think there was a couple in there just of
some of the infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And this is her,
Christina. So.
I would remember if I met her. So
yeah. I think there was a picture, there's a couple more pictures, but you can see the old vines right there. There's a breakdown, and you see the winemakers. Fernando Costa is an enologist. Emilio Gonzalez does a lot of the work in the cellar, and then Manuel Urbanagari. It's a little bit harder to say, but
bless you. Yeah.
Yes. It's always hard, especially when you're switching from French to Spanish to Italian, of how to pronounce everyone's last names. But just a little bit of information, and you can see the vineyards. That's early spring when everything's green, and then as it gets warmer, it starts to look a little more like the Valley of Southern California, a little bit more.
Pretty sizable estate, right? How big is this?
So I'm trying to think exactly how big. When Cáceres started, it was basically 6 different families. So it was 6 different holdings that they brought together to make one. And that was, kind of common at that point in Rioja. And people would call it consolidation, but back then it was more just growers getting together because they all had smaller plots.
Almost like a small cooperative, right?
Yeah, it's basically a co-op. It's changed a little bit over the years, but initially it was a co-op of small farmers that came together. And like I said, Christina's father, Enrique, organized it and brought everyone together, and they've stayed together. You can see that red soil of Rioja. It's really beautiful. It's quite a contrast.
That's where it gets its name, right?
Mm-hmm. The Rioja red ground, red clay.
And you're talking northern Spain. You got those mountains, and you're eating your body weight in pork, eating the ham and the grilled bread and the olive oil, and it's a great place to visit. We'll be doing a visit there next year, so we'll hopefully get some people to come with us to Rioja. And thank you very much, Alan, for being on the Zoom.
Thanks, Ian. Cheers, everyone. Enjoy.
So we now go to Northern California, and Bill, I see you on the Zoom. Is your winemaker with you too?
Yes, it's great to be here, Ian. Thank you so much. Joseph Smith is here. He's our winemaker, and let him take it away.
Sure.
Hey guys.
Spotlight, Joe.
So yes, so I'm Joseph Smith. I'm the winemaker for the Amarose Rosé, and I'll get into it real quick because Bill already told me you don't have much time here, so do as much as you can. But my story is pretty long, so I'm gonna try to cut it back. So a little bit of myself. I'm the winemaker. I'm a winemaker foremost. I'm the winemaker for Clinker Brick, but Bill tapped me to actually help working with the Amarose blend. He saw the work I've been doing with a lot of other rosé brand in and around California, and he said, "Joe, I think you're the right guy for this project." And so I took it on because I have a passion for rosé. I love making rosé. I've been making rosé before the rosé craze. That's what I always tell people. I've been making rosé since 2009, and it's to me, it's the hardest wine to make. I mean, I think people go through that too easily, that rosé, oh, it's just a rosé, it's a light wine. No, it's the hardest word. It's just so tedious to do this, to make a rosé, especially with the quality you're trying to achieve with it. So for me, when I make rosé, man, it's a serious project for me. I really put my everything into it. So first off, I'm actually from Belize, so not your typical winemaker. Mostly you'll see a winemaker from France or California. Well, I come from Belize, definitely not a wine country. We are more rum and beer in that country, but I migrated here 25 years ago, and my first job was actually working in a winery. So I've been working in the business for 25 years and been doing it and love it. So everything I'm doing today is hands-on. Here we go. This Amarose, what I decided to do with this is I've been doing it. I went to France. I've tasted what rosé is supposed to taste like, especially in the south of France. And all the rosé, one of the inspiring rosé for me was Domaine Tempier. I really love that rosé. And I said, you know what? This is the style of rosé I'm going to make if I get the chance to make it. So when I got back to California, I said, you know what? I'm going to make this my mission to make rosé like this. So I'm making this wine for a bunch of other people. But like I said, when Bill approached me to do this, I'm like, you know what? These are the varietals we got to use. It's not going to be anything different. This is what we got to use. These varietals right here. One of the standout for me in this varietal is the Sensol, because it's not a popular grape that you can find anywhere. However, here in Lodi, we have a few vineyards, actually one of the oldest in California, actually, the Sensol. And I told Bill, look, this got to be something we use in this rosé. I think it brings the quality that I appreciate. So that's one of the main reasons I did it. This rosé, again, it's 100% harvested by hand. No skin contact. It's actually whole cluster press, and it ferments for about 32 days, about 50 degrees. So we're doing a very slow process, no skin contact. So every year this could change. So this is our first vintage, but every year this could change on the percentage. It might be a little more Grenache, and I'm not manipulating by trying to bring color from somewhere else. Whatever the grapes give me that year, that's what I'm going to use. So it's very, very important to stick to how I make this rosé, not trying to go somewhere else and color it in. I try to do whatever I get, that's what I do. So it's very important to pay a lot of attention. So it's harvested very early. Probably the highest sugar content in any one of these varietals is about 19 bricks. And I'm talking, we're trying to ferment for about half a bricks a day. So that's where we go for about 32 days and 100% stainless steel. No oak, no skin contact, period. So it's really the essence of a true rosé. As I see, that's how the French wine that I actually love was the Domaine Tempier, and that's exactly how they made it. So I figured that's the way I'm going to make the rosé in California. This has been the way I've made it since then. So over 11 or 12 years making rosé now, I'm sticking to this regimen right here. This is the style of rosé we're making. So we're not going to change that, guys. So as you can see, it's a very clean, refreshing rosé, a lot of strawberries, raspberries in the front. The other thing with this rosé, if you can see where we are located compared to the Provence region, we have a similar type climate, which is a Mediterranean type climate. We actually, if any given day, like I'm in Lodi right now, and it's 100 degrees outside right now. But in the next few hours, that it'll be about 65. We'll see a 30-degree swing, and that's because of the delta breeze the proximity to the Bay Area, and the delta breeze that funnels through Lodi drops those temperature down way quick within a matter of hours, and you could get overnight temperature of 30-degree swings. So that helps with the acidity driven in these wines. It was never known for a reason to do white wines. Well, now we are actually becoming that region. Our people are focusing a lot more on the kind of wines coming out of Lodi. For instance, one of the best white wine in the Spectator 100 was a white wine from Lodi, which is a Grenache Blanc that I made, you know? So for us, these things are proven that the wines that we're making in this region, because of the climate we have, it's actually showcasing really well that we can make this happen. It's similar to what you see in Provence or in south of France. So that's the difference with what we have here in Lodi now. We're starting to make these wine that can stand up to counterpart in US. So if you look on the map, we have, this is the Lodi AVA, and most of the fruit that's in this Amarose Rosé is the McCollum River AVA, Sandalome soil, which is where the Carignan vineyard is. It's 106-year-old vines. And these vines, I mean, the roots for these wines about 30 feet down looking for water. So you look at these vines, they're super old, and the soil is very, very sandy, so with good drainage. And with that, it still gives you a good foliage, and you would think that these vines would be starving, but man, they're so resilient. The way how they prepare themselves for the season, and how the roots just run far deep into the soil to seek that water, you know? So, I mean, over 106-year-old, and they're still standing and still producing. I mean, they're producing about 3 to 5 ton an acre, versus in its younger days, they were probably doing 8 to 10 tons. Well, now that's been dropped back, and I think that helps showcase the quality of it. The other part of the region that we actually brings a lot of the food in is the Clements region, which is a little more inclined, a little more rolling hills. The soil there seems to be a little heavier, so you'll have more stone, more clay type. Instead of the Sandalome, it's a little heavier with clay and rocky soil. There you get the vineyards out there a little more stressed. They're not as productive as the soil, as the one in the Sandalome soil. So there you get heavier structure wine. So when you're making rosé from this region, for me, it's important to actually monitor that, because what we're not trying to do is we don't want to get a wine that have too much tannins. I want to stay away from the tannins, but yet I don't want to have a wine that will come in flabby. So for me, it's very important with how you harvest. It's usually an earlier harvest for me on this area. We bring it in a little earlier because it plays a big important role with structural without giving you heavy tannins. So that's a big part of what we do when we harvest these fruit from both areas of Lodi. So you have the heavier rocky soil, and then you have the Sandalome soil. And again, as you can see the fog in the background of Clements Hill there, we do get those. It's so important with the climate in this area, with the breeze that funnels through here. It plays a big role, because if it's 100 degrees, man, these grapes are just pushing themselves. But with that breeze that comes through in the evening, it slows them right back down, so we can get that longer hang time, so they can develop. And that's a big part. So even though we get that longer hang time, we still get the ripeness because of the heat that we have here in Lodi. So it's typical of what you see in the south of France and in that region here. That's exactly what you would see out there. So yeah, that's a little bit about how we've made this wine. Again, 100% stainless. There's no other way for me to make a rosé. I will never go into oak with it. I just believe light, fresh, and crisp is the way that we make this rosé. Here is a picture of myself. This is Steve Feldman, which is the owner of Clinker Brick, but this is one of the rosé vines that you can see. This is the McCollum River AVA, Ancient Vine Carignan. I mean, this is a 106-year-old vine, as you can see, sandalwood soil. And these vines here, I mean, they're pretty tall and everything is head trained. And we harvest everything by hand as well. So that's just a good look at what we have, how these vineyards look in the Lodi AVA. So that's a good idea of what we have going on out there.
That's so cool. You know, I want to compliment you guys on the packaging. It's really a beautiful bottle. And how do you pronounce it? Amarose?
That's correct. Amarose. Amarose.
Yeah, that's cool. So, like love rosé, right?
That's exactly that's how I take it. I think it's Amarose. Yeah, they said I'm a thorn, but no, I'm a rose. I tell them I'm a rose.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think it's a unique. I mean, again, everybody, like I said, everybody makes a rosé, man, but it takes a true. You have to have a passion for it. It's not an easy wine to make. I'm a little bit. In the past 3 years, I've seen every single rosé from any varietals you can think about. I mean, I've seen Cabernet, I've seen, you name it, Merlot, Rosé, I've seen it all. And I think it's just a fad because for me, I really, really, really believe that it's a special wine. It's a wine that you can drink all year. It goes with a variety of food. And I think people have this misconstrued what this wine really is. You go to France, man. It's serious business with some of these rosé houses you go to. It's not a joke. It's a serious business, and that's kind of my approach to rosé here in California. It's serious business. True rosé. It's not easy to make. It takes a lot of talent to make true rosé. So whenever you have another glass of rosé, make sure you're having a true rosé and not a byproduct of rosé, because a lot of that is circulating in California. A lot of byproduct of rosé. Now we don't do that here. This is true rosé.
I love it. Well, your passion's coming through loud and clear, and the wine is singing, man. I want to tell you, when we put this event together, we had about 60 different brands wanting to participate, and so I blind tasted a huge number of wines, and I picked yours because I loved it so much.
Thank you.
The quality's there, the richness. I was really impressed that you were even carrying Lodi appellation on the label. And then I found out that you're the winemaker from Clinker Brick, and it makes a lot of sense. Your Clinker Brick brand is really one of the best in the area. And so I'm really impressed with this wine, this effort. And I think in terms of California rosé, I think you're right at the top of the charts. I really do.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And it's important. And I'm going to say this, it's very important for what you guys are doing for rosé, because again, doing stuff like this, it's not a gimmick. It's a wine that I think a lot of people overlook. It's a serious wine. I mean, I'll drink rosé in the dead of winter. I love it. It's important. So as long as you have that passion for it, I think it's here to stay and it's here forever. It's not going to go away. It's serious. So thanks to you guys for doing stuff like this as well, to keep that true essence of what rosé should be. I think it's very important, very, very important to do stuff.
Well, really cool to meet you on Zoom, and hopefully we get to meet in person someday too.
Yeah, let's hope. Yeah, for sure. Let's hope. And again, I'm glad to be here, and thank you guys for having us. We appreciate it.
Great job. Beautiful wine, and it's a new product. So we're one of the a few places you can find it right now at the Merchant of Wine. So if you love that wine, support it. And there's a great price on the website right now.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, man. Great job. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
We are in our going towards our fourth wine of the evening, moving along pretty rapidly. So I just want to check in on everybody. JCB, what does that mean?
Sorry, Jeff Costa Bravo. That's what everybody calls me, JCB at work. So
I like it. Well, you guys are looking good.
And Paula, yes, awesome, love it, love this last rosé. This is awesome.
It's amazing.
It's great stuff. I'm a big Tempier fan too. So.
Me too. Yeah, if you ask me why we don't have Tempier tonight, just trying to get some. It's pretty tough.
It's very difficult. I know it's a major challenge.
So and I think that's where the world's starting to change, is that some wines you used to be able to just go and get, I think in this new world economy, you know, great brands are just drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is how much we can make, and we're not going to make any more. And you know, the people, our fans will find us, and then, you know, we'll be out, and that's okay. There used to be a day where we just turn on the spigot and make more and make more and make more. And I think the way the wine world's working, you know, the great brands kind of draw that line in the sand and say, this is how much we can do really well. And so it gets hard to get some of these great wines. And I'm watching some radical things happen with the top wines of the world. They're really getting scarce. So the world's starting to change. You just can't just go out and assume things are going to be available anymore. And even California wines, believe me, this is going to happen in California too. You know, we've got a couple of vintages that are going to come into play here soon. We may have made a lot of 2020 rosé because that's what the Mother Nature let us make. But you know, our wines are in great demand, and there's some things happening in the economy that are really interesting for the wine industry. And so it's just a really good time right now to be very involved and start to amass a little bit of collection, because you're going to see some radical price increases in the next year or two. All right, let's move into our wine number 4 and have Dana Farner.
Hello.
How are you, Dana?
I'm great. How are you? Good to see everybody. What a lovely way to spend the end of a hot day.
Yeah, well, you're looking good.
Thank you.
We're going to pour your Mirabeau.
Excellent.
Wine number 4.
I am going to ask you to go ahead and start the video, because if we don't, I will talk too long and we won't get to watch it.
All right. So, well, you could talk right over the top, right?
No, there's stuff on it. You got to turn on the sound. It's great.
All right, we're going to turn this up then.
Okay.
Here it comes. I'll even start it back here.
Okay, great.
Hi, I'm Stephen.
And I'm Jeannie.
We're the founders of Mirabeau en Provence. We're a small family-owned business created back in 2009 when my wife and I sold our house in London, put all our possessions into the back of a truck, and headed to Provence with a dream of making great rosé. 10 vintages later, our wines are now regarded as some of the highest quality from Provence, constantly winning gold medals and getting 90+ scores from the top publications in the US and the UK. We're also highly engaging as a brand, and the top 3 Provence brand on Instagram, as well as being proud creators of the most viewed wine video in the world, with over 100 million views. Domaine Mirabeau is situated in the Plaine de Mort, just inland from Saint-Tropez, near the beautiful town of Le Gasconnet. You can probably hear the cowbells in the background, and they're actually grazing in the national park that surrounds the domain. It's an absolutely beautiful spot. It's actually a sub-appellation of the Côtes de Provence, known as Notre Dame des Anges. And 300 million years ago, this was all under sea. And what that's left us with is this beautiful, rich, fine-grained alluvial soil, which is sitting on a bedrock of schist. It's a remarkable soil and fantastic for rosé.
Let me tell you a little bit more about this gorgeous region that is Provence. There is no other wine-growing region in the world specializing, like we do, in dry rosé. In fact, 89% of all wine made here is rosé. The AOP laws that govern all our wine growing and winemaking activities are extremely hard, and they're geared towards one thing only, and that is making excellent rosé. So I think what's obvious here is that if you love rosé, then it's got to be from Provence.
Mirabeau Classic, our best-selling wine, sourced from some of the best vineyards in the Côtes de Provence appellation. It's a real crowd pleaser. It's why it does so well. It's a classic Syrah Grenache Cinsault blend, which is why we call it classic. Beautiful red summer fruits, strawberries, cherry blossoms. It's got a beautiful palate, lovely concentration, and finishes really cleanly. Can you hear the frogs in the background? This is just what we want. It's ultimately, this is the farm's already an organic conversion, but we want to do a method of farming known as regenerative farming. whereby we're actually encouraging biodiversity rather than focusing on the monoculture of vines only. We want to really increase the organic matter in the soil naturally by encouraging cover crops and animals, and we're going to build hedgerows and grow hedgerows here to encourage birds to come in. We already have bees on the domain. We want to ultimately create a really, really happy, well-balanced, natural farm, producing a great crop of grapes every year and making fantastic wine.
Nicely done. I'm taken by the size of that estate and the Range Rover Defender that the house they sold in London was pretty special.
Yes, it does. I love his passion, Stephen and Jeannie's passion for this whole project, and the way that they describe it. They always make it sound like they left it all behind and moved to Provence to start growing grapes.
Sure.
And it's not like everybody can do that, Stephen, but I appreciate his, there's a humility to the way he describes everything that I think is really exciting. They also do have lodging on the estate. So, once we're all ready to go to France, we can all go visit, right?
Hey, there's another brand that we're going to be presenting tonight that has lodging. Maybe I'm smelling Wine Trip Provence. Sure.
Excellent. Well, and I was so excited. Joseph led into this estate so impeccably, talking about Côte de Provence and what an excellent region it is, talking about the beauty of Cinsault. And then Stephen mentions this is the classics Rosé blend from Provence with Grenache, Syrah, and Cinsault. And also just talking about the beauty and importance of rosé. And rosé is all that Mirabeau does. They make 4 still rosés, 1 sparkling rosé, and they have just started producing, which we're waiting to arrive soon, a gin made with rosé wine as a base. And it isn't available yet to sell. I was able to get a sample bottle, and it's delicious.
All right. Oh, cool. Well, leave it to an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And here's a couple photos of the family.
Yeah, there's the family and the house.
They definitely are keeping it homeopathic there, huh?
Yeah. And there's the bees. They have a beekeeper named Philippe Pryor who comes to the estate with beehives, and they've got 12 beehives on the estate they come in with a certain number of bees, and those numbers of bees double, triple over time. And they were only able to get him to put in the beehives because they use no artificial pesticides or fertilizer for the domain gardens. And then I think that's a picture of Stephen holding Zoe. Zoe is a dwarf goat, and she lives in an enclosure with 2 alpacas, Vince and Pablo, and they're all there, for biodiversity. And goats are great on vineyards because they're browsers rather than grazers. They eat leafy plants and shrubs, and they can be used for fire prevention because they take care of all of the invasive weeds and create fire breaks, and they can clear vegetation from streams as well. So not only adorable, but also
is that what you classify them as, browsers?
Browsers rather than grazers. So they don't just destroy everything in sight. You can put them where they are and they'll go, oh, I'll eat that.
Nice. I love
and
that
then there's a little bit of grafting happening in that third area of photos. Grafting is something that we're familiar with in California. Absolutely. Tapas Creek is very familiar with grafting. Alan could probably talk more to that if we were going to talk all night, but we aren't. But grafting is a little bit more unusual in France. They're usually the rootstock that they've got growing has already been set up to be resistant to phylloxera. But they had some Cabernet Sauvignon growing on the estate. They don't want to make rosé from Cabernet Sauvignon, so they have grafted those old Cabernet Sauvignon rootstock over to Vermentino, which is known in the area as Roll. So we'll see that coming up soon. But because it's so unusual, they they documented it
Is
in
there
that area, unusual in that
any
area.
roll in this wine now?
No, nope. This is just Grenache, Syrah, and Senso.
It does have a wonderful lift and brightness to it, and so refreshing and so delicate. At the same time, it's really a beautiful rosé.
Yay. Thank you. I'm glad you like it.
Well, here's our tech information: 65 Grenache, 25 Syrah, 10 Senso.
Oh, good question. Somebody asked, what's the video he mentioned that is so watched?
Oh yeah.
You may have already seen it.
Can you paste it into the chat?
Oh, I'll find it and I'll paste it in there. I don't have it handy, but I'll do it in a bit. But it's the video of the guy opening the bottle of wine with his shoe. That's Steven. Not the one that came later that was the drunk guy that couldn't do it, but the original video of the sober British guy who could do it. So I'll find it and I'll put it in the chat.
That would be really fun.
Yeah.
Let me know it's there. I'll make sure everybody sees it, and that's great.
Will do.
Another couple of photos.
Oh, yes. This is, and Stephen mentioned it in the video, his regenerative viticulture practices, which, there's just so much going on in the world with sustainability and organic farming and biodynamic farming. And this is a kind of a new take on an old way of farming, just to make sure that there's a lot of diversity, not only diverse plants, but also diverse animals around to just to keep the land healthy and the world healthy.
This is a look at the bottle. It is an attractive package and very Provençal.
Yes.
And look at that
absolutely.
Color is just like got this really beautiful shiny pink.
Yeah.
Really, really delicate color.
Yes. Like ideal rosé. Ooh, thanks, Michelle. Cool.
Michelle Smith, thanks
for posting information about goats.
I'm wondering why someone hasn't made a browser called Goat.
That's hey. You can do it, Ian.
Someone's already got Duck or Duck. What is it? Duck.
Go. Go. Yeah.
The Goat browser.
Right. Nice. I like it. I'm all for it. More of the estate. And yeah.
Well, great job. Great to see you.
Thank you. You too. Good to meet everybody and see some old friends.
Yes. And please chat us up on the box and let us know when the video's there, if you can find it.
Will do.
And I really love this wine, and it fits perfectly into the strata of rosés that we're showing. And I'd love to hear some people comment, some of the participants, about what you see that's a little different in each one, because each one represents the kind of the personality of the place that it comes from, the personality of the producer. I want to see if you can smell the Range Rover Defender in this one. It's definitely got a little more sense of exploration. And thanks very much. It was beautiful. I love your Zoom presence. You just look so lovely and so happy there. I love that spot.
Well honed over the last year and a half. Well honed.
On point. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, I hope everyone's enjoying that as much as I am. I think, see, wine 4, all the stress and stuff of your day, of your week is starting to come off your shoulders, and we're moving into wine number 5. And I'm real excited to see, is Jop out there? Yep.
Mike is here.
Mike, you're going to do it, Mike?
I'm here to help host everybody along and have some fun.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Didn't see Yop, so I had to ask.
No, I don't think he's able to join us tonight with the time difference. I think it's
a
little too early in the morning for him.
I don't know if he was in because he was in a different country last time.
He's normally in Australia, and I think he's in Europe somewhere right now. But I mean, that could be any 9 different time zones. So all he said was Europe. But I'll be here to take everybody through the wine.
Well, the axe is about to fall. Here we go.
I like it. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us. I'm Mike Marietta. I work for Co-Brand Wines. We're the importer of X Rosé. I know it's very confusing with the AIX, but just forget about the A and the I, it's X Rosé. Aix-en-Provence, it's Maison Saint X. You see this beautiful little red logo down at the bottom there. That is their logo. You might have seen this wine in the past, and before it was actually 2 Mandarin ducks, and it was a symbol, a Chinese symbol for good luck. But there was a lot of confusion on, is this a Chinese wine? Is it a French wine? What's kind of the story? So we changed it to be similar but different. So with the 2020 vintage, it now has, so there's the 2019 vintage, just the 2 Mandarin ducks there.
Subtle.
Versus the
It was subtle. I didn't actually know.
Very subtle, but just kind of wanted to clear up some of the confusion for anybody if you guys noticed the change. But we'll take it through with the video.
And you moved them out. So we'll have you talk over the top of this one, okay?
Okay, great. So Maison Saint X, this was started by a gentleman named Eric Kerber. So he actually started the winery in about 13 years ago now. So the early 2000s, started this winery, and he bought these vineyards that were already vineyards, they were already growing, but they didn't have, or they had a winery, but super small, they're mostly growers. But he really wanted to make this Provence Rosé that just was about the lifestyle of Provence Rosé. What everybody thinks about is just the light, fresh, food friendly, great for parties, great for sharing with friends, just great for making great memories, great rosé for great places. As you can see from that quick little snapshot, there is just so many great places where everybody wants to be. Who doesn't want to be in a boat in the Mediterranean drinking rosé, or on the beach, or in your back patio, anywhere? And here's actually Eric Kerber with another video. So this is a gentleman that founded the winery, and he's going to talk to us. So I'll be quiet for this one.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Stars of Rosé Tasting. Welcome to Los Angeles. My name is Eric Kerber, owner and winemaker at Maison Saint X. We are based in the Provence, in the sunny south of France. The only thing and everything we do here is making great rosé called X Rosé. Unfortunately, I can't join you today, but you are in trusted hands with my colleagues Jaap and Mike. Enjoy the tasting, and I will say cheers.
Nice.
So that's Eric. He started the winery, and it's really just, it's a fairly small operation still. It's really him and his family doing it. His son has been working in the winery since he was 13 and helps with labeling and bottling and just kind of little side projects. And, Eric's actually first job, the gentleman that found the winery, was selling fine wine when he was 13 in Amsterdam. So wine's kind of been in his blood for a very long time, and just something he really has a passion for. And like he said, we make rosé, nothing but rosé, similar to Mirabeau with Dana. But for us at X, we make one wine and one wine only. But we make a lot of different sizes. We make 750s, which is what everybody's kind of familiar with, but we also make magnums, Jeroboams, which are 3 liters. We make 6 liters, 9 liters, 15 liters, a lot of different sizes. We are actually X Rosé, Maison Saint X is actually the largest producer of large format rosés out of Provence in the world. So
we did this
just something really
live,
fun. And
Mike?
Yes.
When we did this event live, they sent us like a 9-liter to auction off, and that thing went for, like, I'm serious, we had people in the crowd bidding like crazy. This huge bottle of rosé, I
love it.
I think it went for like $2,500, and everybody, we put it in the photo booth so everybody could take their photo with it, because it was really just a kind of a crazy format, and it's really fun to have those big bottles. And
for sure. I mean, it's so much fun as you walk into a party. Like, who doesn't love drinking out of a larger bottle? Like, it's so much fun. Magnums show you care. So, I mean, what do 3 liters and 6 liters mean? Means you love somebody.
Yeah, and on our auction is the Miraval Provence 3-liter. So this is something you could pick up, and it's a lot of fun, just for charity, and it's in great shape. We're a vintage 2018 on the 3-liter.
Yeah, so I mean, it's great. I mean, typically when you see Provence rosés, you don't really think of them as something that can age. And to be quite frank with you, you really have 1 to 4 years for them to really be in its prime spot. But I mean, once you get into larger formats, they age so much
lower,
better, just because there's, as wines age, it's, corks let in a little bit of oxygen. So that's what happens is the wine oxidizes slowly. But as you have a bigger wine, a bigger bottle of wine, the cork's still the same size. So you have the same amount of oxygen getting in, but a lot more wine it has to interact with. So those bigger bottles age a lot longer, which is great. But even the 750s, I think, are drinking beautifully right now. I've had 2019s and they're drinking awesome out of 750, and Magnums are super fresh. If you're in the LA area, we have Magnums that are out in some of the retailers and they're awesome. And they're at a great price. But this is a delicious rosé. It's a higher elevation vineyard than most other rosés in Provence. It's about 450 meters over sea level. So calculate that to feet. I'll say it's about 2,000 feet elevation-ish.
The slide has little fun things that are
Oh, perfect.
Click on it. I was wondering what's going on there.
I was too. I didn't put this together, so I was like, "Is this the next person's slide or mine?" So yeah, I mean, Maison Saint X. It is named after Aix-en-Provence, which is the actual appellation, and thankfully Eric was able to trademark the Maison Saint X, which was kind of tricky, and thankfully it kind of slipped through, which is great. So you can see here down at the bottom, Côtes-de-Provence makes 74% of the rosés. And then Coteaux-d'Aix-en-Provence makes 16%. So it's a little smaller amount of the rosé that's made out of this area. And US is a huge market for it. Obviously, we all love rosés. Thankfully, I'm here in Los Angeles in Southern California and on a hot day like today, but thankfully year round, we have such great weather that it's rosé season all year round. Yeah. And obviously summer is even better, but I always like to have a little bit of rosé in the fridge just in case.
Right, here comes.
So here's a little snapshot of the picture. So Coteaux-d'Aix-en-Provence is the appellation, the big AVA. So they make a little over 2 million cases of wine a year, and that's all pretty much probably 99% rosé, 96%. There you go. Never mind, 82% rosé. So it's a lot of cases, but at the same time, it's not when you think about it being spread across the world when everybody wants Provence rosé. It's delicious. And again, you look at the wineries.
And you're talking about the appellation, not the brand, right?
Correct. Yeah, the whole appellation together, not just this one brand.
Yeah.
So 2 million cases for the world. And you also have to think France probably drinks most of this rosé. We just get a good chunk of it here in the United States. And but I mean, it's delicious. It's fun. It's still pretty small, even though as much as you see of it out there, it's pretty small. So Julie asked a question about the rosé. The skin stayed in longer. Usually, yes, there's a few different ways to make rosé. You can press the wine and it presses right off. And that little bit of skin contact gives a little bit of color. You can leave it on the skins for a little bit longer and pulls off some color. You can make some red wine and mix it with white wine, get that color. You can make some white wine, just add a little bit of red at the end. There's a few different ways to make it. Maison Saint X, we press the grapes, let it sit on it for a super short time, and then we pull it off. When you let it sit on the skins, it pulls out a lot of tannin and a lot of flavor out of those skins. And we don't necessarily want all that because we want it to be very light and fresh and fruity and delicious and just very refreshing style of rosé. So it's basically a direct press, which means you press the grapes and it, as you know, drips from the top grapes down to the bottom drips. That's a little bit of skin contact it gets, which is why it has such a light pink color to it.
And then
so Mediterranean climate.
You went into Ceylon, right? Kind of voice there for a second, Mike. So go ahead and say that again.
Okay, sorry. Somebody asked a question. Julie asked a question about rosé being skin contact. Yes, a lot of rosés can see some skin contact, and sometimes you'll leave it on the skins for a few hours to a few days, depending on how much extract you want for color and flavor. Maison Saint X, it's a direct press, so we press the grapes, and basically the top grapes that get pressed as it runs through the bottom. That's a little bit of skin contact it gets, just very light skin contact, because the more time it spends in contact with the skins, the more color it pulls out, but also the more phenolics. So a little more tannin and flavor from those skins, which is great for some rosés, like Tavels that we'll taste in a second. But for Provence style, we want it to be very light and fresh and very, very refreshing and easy drinking. You remove the skins, you don't really remove them, you just press it, and it's on like a mesh. Think about your colander. You squeeze these grapes with the bladder press. There's basically, the grapes are in a big tank, and there's a bladder in the middle, a big rubber bladder, and you inflate it with air, and as it expands, it presses these grapes against the mesh on the outside, and now that juice goes out, but the skins stay in. So that's how you remove the skins. And for this Provence Rosé, for X Rosé, we do 60 Grenache, 20 Cinsault, 20 Syrah, so similar blend to the Mirabeau.
I think I went on these slides a little quick there, buddy. Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm trying to keep up with you.
Yeah, I don't know when to stop clicking, so you just click right through it. But there's a little bit more about the actual sub-appellation of Aix-en-Provence. And
yeah, so a lot of clay limestone soil, so you get a little bit more minerality. A little kind of when I taste a lot of limestone wines, I get a little bit of saltiness, as well as that kind of, we've all been kids, we've all licked different things, and I'm sure we've licked a rock at one time or another. And you get that kind of weird salty dirtiness taste to it, and I feel like you really get that with some of these wines. And the more wine you drink, especially white Burgundy, I feel like that really. And I think that raspberry, that tart fruit, but then at the same time, you get a little bit of acidity and you get a little bit of that limestone coming through. You get a little bit of that chalkiness. But, with that clay, it has slight pores in there that it drains the water great and perfect for vine stress. And you really need that vine stress to have the grapes really work for that water and, makes them stronger.
It's a 130-year-old winery.
So the winery's been around for a long time. The vineyards have been there forever. I mean, for 130 years at least. And so Eric bought this about 12, 13, 14 years ago now, actually, sorry. 14 years now. And, he bought the winery from somebody, and he just really, 10 years, they've done a complete revamp of all their technology and equipment in the winery just to keep everything very up to date and fresh, and just so they can make sure they're bringing the best rosé possible forward. So like I said, they only make rosés, so they have about 105 acres of vineyards, which is huge for a lot of rosés in Provence. Little couple of facts on that last slide that we flew by. Winery was established in 1880, 2009, so I guess 12 years ago now. So this is the property that he purchased in 2009. But the vines were first planted in 1973, and every year they replant about 4 hectares of grapes. And that's just to keep the vines producing that light, fresh fruit, because as vines get older, they produce more juicy fruit, which is great when you're making red wines and certain white wines. But for the rosé, you want it to be very light and fresh. So we're constantly pulling up the vines and replanting just to keep the fruit very nice and fresh. But because we have so much acreage, we're able to balance all that out. So here's a quick little snapshot on the blend. All sustainable farming. We do have some estate fruit, but we also purchase a lot of fruit, and that's just to kind of keep the balance of the flavors and keep it consistent year after year. So, and like I said, it's immediate gentle press. So it's just press real briefly, not hard enough to break the skins, just really to let that juice out and then drain it off. And that's why it has such a light pink color, is because it just spends a little bit of time on the skins, really almost no time on the skins, but just enough to, as long as it takes to get from the top of the tank to the bottom and out of the drain. But no oak, just really light, slow, and steady fermentation. So I hope you guys all enjoy, and we'll let you guys get on to the next one. But thank you all so much for joining us tonight, and I hope you guys are all enjoying the rosés.
It's great. It's great to taste them back to back, because we just tasted 2 really important brands for the Provence region, and one from Côtes-de-Provence and one from Aix-en-Provence. So it's really neat to see, they're both Provençal rosés, but they have a little different approach and a little different, you cut out the
by side. I mean, even the blends are similar. Oh, so the blend,
Mike, you're
similar, but it's nice to see what the two side one.
Yeah, your internet's, I've been cutting out a little bit, so I've been happy that you made it through, because you punctuated your comments so much, but your internet was a little tough on that last one. Sorry about that. But we'll take a break, and we'll probably be coming back to you in a moment to talk to you about Chateau De Caria. But in between, we're going to go to a third Provençal rosé with Chateau De Bern. Look, before we do that, though, let's just check in with our group and see how we're doing, because we're moving along at a much faster click than we did on our first night. We got to like wine night. Yeah, what Dana, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I forgot to take a screenshot when I was talking, and I gotta make sure that Stephen knows that, Stephen and Jeannie know that we talked about Mirabeau. So I was gonna hold up the bottle.
Put it up and I'll take your picture. Come on.
Awesome.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Smile, everybody. There we go. All right.
Thank you.
And thanks for posting that video. I think it'd be fun to check out that video.
Yeah, it's really quick and it's kind of fantastic.
Let me see. Where is it? You guys are chatting so much. I gotta find it. I can't find it. There it is. I got it. Okay. So I'll get in there.
Game where grandson and granddad will bond.
I got a commercial, so we'll take this quick little break. Give me 1 second. I'll bring it up.
Thanks, YouTube.
Here it comes. Oh, we took advantage and put the Mirabeau on there. That's good.
Have you ever been in this position? Really nice bottle of wine, no corkscrew. How do you open it? I'll show you. First of all, take the capsule off. Voila. Secondly, you need a pair of shoes. Just one will do. Bottle of wine, a shoe, and a wool. Place bottle in shoe and start banging.
Is this approved by the Court of Master Sommelier?
Cork begins to pop up.
It's in service now. It's in the service exam now.
Good. Oh, cool. That was it. Boom. Look at that. 12 million views. That's pretty impressive.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for that.
I asked him once, how did you know that was going to do so well? How did you plan that? He was like, honestly, no planning at all. It just happened. Like he thought, oh, this would be interesting to post. And he did. Like, no, like marketing, he said, I might have, done my hair a bit differently if I would have known, but.
Well, let me show you the other video. This one.
La date, tu fais ça, c'est le meilleur. C'est le meilleur. Tu vas l'ouvrir avec un 4 ou bien un 4.
Now, this guy really wants to open this bottle of wine, but he is hammered, and everything is moving around him pretty quickly. Now, I played this for years in my classes. As people were coming into the class, I'd have this up so people could be entertained for a moment. But I think he's trying to speak.
Fais-le la bête. Retire ta grolle. Retire ta chaussure. Monte dans le spectacle. Oh, je peux plus le mec. Oh. Non, il va le faire. Tu rigoles, mais c'est comme ça. Tu vas le faire. La batte.
Hero status. All right. We've all
That's hilarious.
All right. Well, thank you very much. That was a good little break. We got 2 more wines. We're going to go to Chateau De Bern. Is Victor out there?
Yes, I am. Hey, guys. How are you?
Ooh, how are you, Victor?
I'm good. Thank you. Good to see you again.
You too. Thank you so much. Now, some of these folks we featured in our trade tasting. We showed these wines to the greater wine audience of Los Angeles. This is the other side of the Stars of Rosé. And so we had the top restaurants and hotels and wine shops on our Zoom the other day. And so we get to work with these folks in a big way. And it's really an honor to be able to have you guys on here. So thank you for joining us. Victor Labelle represents Chateau De Bern, and we're going to make you spotlight here so we can take a look at your wine. And I just need to make sure I've got your yes, there we go, there, and boom. Can you see the screen with your slideshow?
Yes. I mean, we see like that's good.
Okay.
So yeah, so welcome guys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I think I see I met some of you guys on the last tasting, and I was presenting one of the other estates we own called Ultimate Provence. So tonight I'm here to talk to you about Chateau De Bern, which is probably like the main chateau we have, the biggest one we have, and probably the most well known. So we can go on the next slide. I'm not gonna spend too much time probably on the next slide because I think we went through a lot of Provence Rosé tonight. So you, like my colleagues already kind of told you quite a lot about Provence, but I think the main point here is to remember that in fact Provence, it's probably like it is in fact the oldest wine region in France. So we saw it through the history that in fact like Romans came and they settled in Provence close to Marseille first, and then they kind of spread out to Bordeaux, Rhône Valley, Burgundy, and Champagne. So that's funny enough, but Provence is the birthplace of Rosé, but it's also the birthplace of wine making region, in France. So we can move on to the next slide. So this is what also like just a quick slide just to tell you, because I know I use kind of quite a lot this word terroir, which is a French word to kind of combine different things together. And there is for me like four important things on this word terroir, which is the first one will be in fact the soil. So we always talk about soil, and we saw it with Aix and Mirabeau, depending on where you are. Even though you are really close in Provence, you are still getting some different type of soil, different climates as well, depending on where you are, the altitude. I know, like for Aix, we were referencing high altitude. That's kind of the same for Chateau De Bern when we are looking at probably like 1,000 feet above like sea level. So all of these together, kind of make terroir unique and really specific to each estate in Provence, even though it's a really small area. When, I'm now based in New York, and when I traveled from, New York to California, it's like the same time almost, even a tiny bit more for me to go back to France sometimes. So it's like you have such a big country at the end that in France, everything is kind of small, but at the same time really different. So tonight I'm just here to introduce you Chateau De Bern, which is the most well-known of the 4 estates we own, and you see it on this map. It's like the first estate on the top of the map, like on the north part of the Provence. Exactly, it's here. So we are kind of inland, in the heart of the Var region. And what is important is, in fact, and some people mentioned before, but the terroir, 80% of the Provence appellation, it's under this limestone soil. And Chateau De Bern is clearly under this kind of soil, limestone. And, limestone gives to the wine this nice minerality and acidity. So you will get this when you will taste the wine of Chateau De Bern inspiration. It's also like a really nice land, in fact, to combine with, like some grapes. And we use, the main grapes that we saw already together before, like Grenache, Cinsault, and Syrah. But the main grapes for Chateau De Bern is Grenache. So we can move on. This is a short video as well on the estate. I will talk about the video. But Chateau De Bern is not only a winery. So you have to understand that Chateau De Bern has been there for like more than 200 years. In fact, we have seen some documentation regarding 1776, which is also the same date for the independence of the USA for Chateau De Bern. So producing wines since the beginning. It's a big estate. We are talking about 350 acres just of vines, surrounded like by forest, etc. But it's not only a winery where we make wine. it's also a place. It's a real destination in Provence. And in fact, we are really well known because of this. We are in fact the first wine tourism destination in Provence. So when you go there, you have, of course, the winery. You can see the whole process. You can go to the wine shop, but you will be also pleased to find like a restaurant, in fact, 2 restaurants. And one of them, it's a Michelin star restaurant. And this year, for the first time, out of like 90 one-star Michelin restaurants in France, we got a green star. And there is only like 30 of those restaurants in France awarded by the green star. So it means like we pay attention on the environment. We grow our own vegetables like on the garden. We do kind of what you cook, it's what you grow. So that's what we do. So Chateau De Bern, 2 restaurants, hotel, Relais Chateau, 5-star hotel with a world-class spa. So this is the actual chateau with the hotel. So it's a whole concept. It's a whole hospitality things where you go for a day with your family for some events. We do. You go for a weekend or you go for a week. So it's really a destination. We love people. We want to welcome people as much as we can, especially now that things are reopening. And I think also one of the main important point in Chateau De Bern, it's the food pairing. So we kind of work really closely between the winemaker, Alexis Cornu, and we will see a slide on Alexis Cornu, our winemaker after, and the food. So the chef of the Michelin star restaurant is really working closely with Alexis to try to, to blend and to make the rosé on the pairing side, and not just only like a summer type rosé. So we talk about, temperature of taste. You mean like we don't want the wine too cold as well. We want to kind of try the wine when it's like at good temperature, so you can feel like all the aromas. And I will go a tiny bit more detail at the end on the wine and the grapes and the blend. But food pairing for us, it's really a key and an important point. And we will see Chateau De Bern is great with seafood, etc. So it's hospitality, love people, real destination. We can go on the next slide. This is a short video of Alexis, and we will play with the sound because it will answer the question about like what makes Chateau De Bern unique, but especially what is unique with Romance, in fact, which is the first wine of Chateau De Bern, and Inspiration, which is a square bottle and the one we will taste tonight.
Chateau De Bern is located inland and up hills at about 900 feet height. So it means we are in a cooler Mediterranean area. We have cooler nights, and the Grenache grape variety growing on limestone at this altitude give a lot of freshness in the wine, minerality. And that's what you will find in our wines. The wines available in the US are Romance and Inspiration of Bern, and you will taste on your own tongue what is the Bern style. We are very lucky. We have a chef, Michelin star chef, Louis Rameau, and every year we have 500,000 of people visiting us. It's the first wine destination in Provence. So I hope you will visit us pretty soon.
So this is Chateau De Bern. This is a Relais and Chateau?
Yeah, exactly. So I think we are under the 5th year on the Relais Chateau. So, like this concept brings like nice places in France. And we are one of the only one with a winery linked to the actual hotel. So this is like the real hotel part. The winery is a tiny bit more on the right. But I will just stop on this picture quickly just to show you, in fact, where we see the actual chateau. We have 2 square towers. And this is kind of coming from the Roman, like when they came in Provence, they kind of brought things from Italy, Tuscany. So we have this kind of architecture that is not really common in France. When you visit like big chateau in France, you will see they have this round tower, like the real castle. But Chateau De Bern has these 2 massive like square towers that you can also find in the entrance. When you exit the road, you go through this massive entrance. And this is where, in fact, we got inspired by the architecture we had to make the square bottle. So now Chateau De Bern, it's really well known in France, Europe about the square. People remember like Bern it's square. So sometimes you don't even remember about the name of the wine, just the shape of the bottle. And this is where the bottle, the shape of the bottle is coming from. It's coming from the architecture, in fact, of the chateau.
So I'm asking people who want to go with me. We'll stay 3 days here, and we'll move somewhere else, because this is a really in chateau. So we're talking about big bucks. You got those great restaurants, and then we can go around and see some of the other spots. But we're serious. We're going to be going to Provence.
I would be more than happy to welcome you guys. And we saw like Mirabeau and Aix, we have some other great wineries to visit as well. So I'm sure it will be a nice trip. We can get you busy for at least a week.
All right, that sounds good. Let's do it.
So this is another slide. I won't talk too much. We saw it on videos, but that was just really like a summary of what is Chateau De Bern. So the hotel, the restaurant, Chateau De Bern, which is a Michelin star restaurant, and another one more like casual restaurant called Le Bistro. It's a beautiful place. So things are reopening. So if you stop by France and Provence, I will be more than happy to try to do something for you guys and do like a nice tour of all these facilities. Yeah.
Great. Can't wait.
And then that was the next slide. It's just about more like the vine aspect. So I was a summary of like the key things to remember about Chateau De Bern. So I know my colleague from Aix was mentioning about the cool nights, and also my friend from California was mentioning also like the Provence aspect, meaning you get warm weather during the day and cooler nights. This is what we have on Chateau De Bern, clearly. Because of the altitude, you get really, really warm weather. You have the limestone that keeps, in fact, the warmth from, like the sun, and like bring back this warmth during the night when it's gonna cooling down. The limestone soil, the terroir, is really important as well, just to remember. And we are producing like really fine and elegant wine. And this is also coming from the Grenache grapes, which is a signature of Chateau De Bern. So you have the limestone soil on one side that brings like minerality, freshness, acidity of the wine that we like in Provence, and also the Grenache. And Grenache for Provence Rosé is like the backbone of the wine. So you will get kind of your nice minerality, freshness on one side, and then the structure on your palate, more like a full body type rosé, but not too much. We are still on the dry and light aspect of Provence, but you will get a nice combination between those two and a nice balance. So that's how we can try. I mean, that's what we tend to follow to create inspiration. Inspiration is really like the textbook Provençal rosé. When you are looking for a Provençal rosé, for us, inspiration is what you should be looking for. Grenache, mainly about 50%, Cinsault 30%, and 20% Syrah. So we are close from the other like blend we saw with Mirabeau and Aix, but this really typical like terroir and soil with Grenache. So lovely wine. For me, you are more probably on the white fruits and really like floral type. You are tasting the 2019. The 2020 will come soon in California. So we want also people to understand that vintage doesn't mean a lot as long as the wine is made in a good way. It can age good and it will show some great potential. Even like if it's 1 year old, you don't need to necessarily like drink the last vintage. So cheers to everybody. Thank you so much for your time tonight. And if you have any question, more than happy to answer.
Beautiful, beautiful job. And we can't wait to get over there. I'm thinking March 2020, right before the April crush.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
Let me know the avails. We'll be calling you soon.
2020 was last year.
Yeah. Thank you for correcting me there. 2022.
2022, yeah, understood, but perfect timing.
Excellent. All right. Well, beautiful, beautiful. And I hope everybody's doing all right. We're moving into wine number 7, and I'm real excited because we just tasted 3 beautiful Provence rosés. They're each very distinguished and unique, and what they present. And I'm sure you'll pick your favorites, but definitely feel free to comment about the wines in the chat box or ask questions. We've got a lot of chat activity, but Victor, great job, and we thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move over to Chateau De Caria, and with all respect to the other producers, hi Rachel. I know
Hi everyone.
I mentioned Mike before. I don't know if you were there, but Mike and Rachel work for Co-Brand, and we benefit from having Rachel with Chateau De Caria. This is one of the oldest estates in southern France, so we're excited to taste this unique Tavel. Tavel is like, of all the rosés that we're tasting tonight, this one stands out the most, right?
Yes, it's my go-to Tavel when you are studying wine and you open up a wine book. It's the Tavel you see that's described as the quintessential Tavel. So we're lucky to have it in our glass tonight.
Yes, ma'am. Let me get that PowerPoint open for you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Ian. And great presentations tonight, everyone.
Yeah, I give high clicks for everybody for all the wonderful on-point comments, and everyone's really doing great. So, Caria, can we play the video with volume off? And Rachel, are you going to take us through this, Rachel?
Yes, absolutely. So this is Chateau De Caria. The grapes are very high, exceptional quality. This is a noble terroir. And it's my go-to wine from Tavel. The grapes are handpicked, and this is the Chateau De Caria Estate. They started in the 1600s, so it's family owned today, and you could see the beautiful soil type there. It's very sandy, clay, limestone. If you have a chance, or if you already have it in your glass, you can really taste that minerality on the rosé, and it just comes from those beautiful vineyards. But the grapes here are Grenache Noir. Tavel is in the southern Rhône, so very influenced by the southern Rhône region grapes, so Grenache Noir and Blanc. There's also a little bit of Claret, Cinsault, Mourvedre, Syrah, and then Bourbon. The winemaking here is all stainless steel. And as you can see there, they also make a red wine called Lirac Rouge. They use oak barrels on their Lirac, but for our purposes tonight, they're only using stainless steel for their rosé wines. And that is the owners, the De Bez family, and they also use some of these concrete eggs for their red wines as well. And the Tavel is in that very long, slender shaped bottle. I love those bottles. They're different shapes, but they're still so iconic. And this is their son, Rafael De Bez. He is also going to take over the winemaking for his father. So this is still family owned, passed on to the following generation. And yeah, it's an iconic property. And again, it's what I think of when I think of Tavel. And as you can see in your glass, this wine is a lot darker than the other rosés you have in your glass. That's because Tavel uses a color card. So the rosés have to be a darker, this color or darker. It's sort of there when the appellation started in 1936. The region really just agreed on this style and this color of wine. They really wanted to distinguish their rosé from the rosés from all around the world. So very different from Provence. This is more full-bodied, sort of full body rosé. It can benefit from aging, and it's longer maceration, so longer times touching the skin, whereas other rosés maybe 8 to 24 hours. This is actually 14 days in maceration. So here's a really great wine map of France. You can see there that Tavel is just right in the south, not too far from Provence. Here are the terroir of Tavel. They say that a good Tavel can lift your spirits like no other. And obviously Chateau De Caria is an excellent example. Although it's, fuller bodied in style, it's still very refreshing. There's lots of fruit. There's also lots of power too. So it's really, really a beautiful example of Tavel.
One of my favorite pictures I've ever taken of myself is me kind of squatting right in that vineyard, holding that river rock in my hand. It's just really amazing, how all of this stone moved, I don't know, 1,000 miles and became round in the Rhône River, over time. It just really, really like blows your mind.
Absolutely. And then this is Bruno De Bez on the left, and then Vincent De Bez on the right. They're brothers. So Vincent takes care of the winemaking, and then his brother Bruno takes care of the marketing and sales. But together they're this powerhouse team and their family. Eventually, as I mentioned, Vincent's son Rafael will take over for the winery. He studied entrepreneurship and winemaking and will eventually take over for his father. So this is the Aquaria Estate. Again, 400 years of vine growing. Count Louis Joseph de Caria planted what was known as the Puy Sablonneux, or the Sandy Hill, and that was the region now known as Tavel. So they had built a residence there at the beginning of the 1600s, and Aquaria was what they named the estate, and thus what they named the wine. Yeah, so Chateau De Caria is actually out of, there are about 40 estates in the Tavel appellation, and Chateau De Caria has about 244 acres. And they're a true domain. They have contiguous holdings rather than holdings that are scattered throughout the appellation. So they're very true domain. And then again, those beautiful rocks over sand and chalky subsoil. Hopefully we all get to visit the Rhône region sometime. I mean, once you're in Provence, it's easy to get to the Rhône. So why not factor that into your next trip?
You got it. And I'm getting a lot of feedback about how this wine's like a favorite of people. In fact, last night we did our first live event. We did a little rosé party last night, and it looks like the Tavel, I mean, it's the only Tavel. So there's 6 different Provence rosés in this event and many others, but the Tavel did really well, Rachel.
Very nice, thank you. I think somebody in the chat asked for some wine pairings, and I think there's a diversity in wine pairings here. You can pair it with charcuterie, cheeses, even salmon or pork loin. So there's so many possibilities when it comes to rosés and wine pairings.
Yeah, I think this one is like one of my favorites for a full-on picnic.
Absolutely.
This goes with so many different things and can handle its way through some big, bigger items as well.
Absolutely, I agree.
Well, it's showing great, and it is typical that this wine is a little bit behind some of the the 2020 wines that are coming in. Tavel wines actually do improve with some time in bottle as well. So 19's current vintage, 2020 is probably going to land any day.
Yes.
It's a wine that takes a little time to come around because of all that skin contact and that extraction there. But really beautiful color and this is like the definition of classic.
It is. I again, when I open up my wine books and I read about Tavel, this is the Tavel I see. So it's very classic, very iconic, and And I see that someone's having salmon tonight with their rosés, so that's a great pairing. Excellent choice.
Wonderful. Well, great job, and really wonderful to see you again. Thanks for showing us such beautiful stuff, and
thank you, Ian.
Everybody did such a nice job. Thank you all very much. We hope you enjoyed the Stars of Rosé. I want to remind you that the prices at Merchant of Wine are really special until tomorrow night, Sunday at 5 o'clock. We do have free delivery in Los Angeles on any order over $50, and then 10% off additional when you get to 12 bottles, and that's any 12 bottles. So the prices are right at my cost when you do that. So I'm just here to sell a lot of these, the wine for these guys. And I think you should jump on and grab something. You can grab any bottles, rosé or other, from the website to get to your house. We'll probably deliver it on Tuesday if it's in stock. But this is something we've enjoyed doing during the pandemic. We're going to enjoy doing it continuously. We're going to keep going on Zoom, but we're also going to start introducing some of our live events. And we'll probably looking at September before the world is ready for us to do something pretty, significant. We had a really nice little gathering last night, and but restaurants are still trying to figure out staffing. Some of my favorite restaurants aren't even open yet. The hotels are just having a really tough time. So we're gonna take it nice and slow. You'll probably see a couple of dinners that we're going to promote for the rest of the summer and get some great restaurant support. That's kind of a big plan. But another big thing that we announced this last week was our trip to Piedmont, Italy. We're going the first week of December, basically have Thanksgiving with your family, have leftovers on Friday, get on a plane on Saturday, and meet me in Piedmont on Sunday. And we'll spend a week in Piedmont. And if you want to stay in Italy for another week, we're going to announce a trip in Tuscany the week after. And it's my hope that I can spend half of December in Italy, and then we'll go back to Europe in March and do Provence and maybe something else. So you guys want to come with me, let me know. Sally, Ann, you and your spider friends there can join us. We'd love to have you. Michelle Smith, maybe you want to come with us. Pia, you speak Italian, no?
A little bit. I understand it.
All right. Well, it'd be great to have you come with us. Maybe Erica can come too. Greg, how's the auction doing?
We're getting some bids. All the wine have bids on them, but we definitely could use a few more. Keep in mind this stays open till tomorrow night at 9 p.m. I'm actually going to be seeing the Foo Fighters tomorrow at Madison Square Garden.
Rub it in.
So I will be checking this auction throughout the show, and just keep bidding. It all supports Children's Hospital Los Angeles.
That's amazing. Great. We'll be back next month with the Stars of Pinot, which is now on sale at learnaboutwine.com. I got to tell you, when we put these together, we started off with a certain cadence and stuff, but Stars of Pinot, if you like Pinot Noir, I could not have gotten better wineries involved. And there's now a business model behind it. So a lot of these are wines that I've owned or been able to collect. Check it out, because it's not all current vintage. We're going to be tasting stuff like 14 Hanzel. We're going to go to Oregon for some really amazing small producers. We got some of the best in Burgundy, like Chateau and Philippe Collin. We're gonna really move it around. We got New Zealand. We've got some really incredible stuff. So join us for Stars of Pinot. There's 4 different dates. We're doing a Wednesday, Thursday series, and then about 2 weeks later, we'll do Saturday, Sunday. So we can spread it out a little bit and not try to do 4 nights in a row or anything. But Stars of Pinot is a big deal for us. We used to do it at the Montage. We'd have 50, 60 wineries there, 400 people. and it's just a little too soon to do that. So we will keep it on Zoom, and we thank you guys for your support, and thank you for being here tonight. And thanks for all the producers. What a wonderful job you guys did. Thank you. It was beautiful. We learned a lot, and I hope everybody had a good time. But thank you guys very much. You have a good night.